Welcome back to the Old Fly Guy Network, and thanks again for joining us as we travel across the country to meet exciting aviators. And as always, we appreciate your support. Subscribe to the channel. Give us that thumbs up if you like what we're doing, and we're going to keep doing more of it. So today we're in Broomfield, Colorado, meeting with Matt Beyer at the Rocky Mountain Metro Airfield. And if you ever wanted to hear about mountain flying operations, flight training in challenging situations, and keeping a focus on safety at all times, I know Matt's going to be able to fill us in on that and many other topics. So Matt, welcome, and thanks for spending some time and joining us on the network today.
Thanks for doing this with me, Wade. I greatly appreciate it.
We've been working on this for a long time,
right.
And we've got a great day for it. So stick with us. We got plenty to talk about. And, you know, Matt's a general aviation enthusiast. Mm-hmm. He's a trainer, he's an entrepreneur, and so stay with us because he really has a passion for aviation. He's got has it deep inside him, and I think you're going to enjoy hearing his story and his journey in aviation. So let's get started. Matt, I think I want to, in full disclosure to our audience, let them know that you had the pleasure of training me a little bit here. And I say pleasure on my part because I had an absolute gas. We're sitting here at 5,000 some odd feet at your airspace, literally. Right. And I just want to thank you for everything you did for me because you've opened the door for all the things we just started to talk about. You helped me understand the safety in flying here in the mountains and the beauty, some of the things you've shown me really has opened a lot of doors for me, and I go back and tell everybody every time I come out and visit with you.
It's not fun, it's educational.
It's educational.
Right.
And you put up with it very well, so I appreciate it, and I just wanted to thank you.
I have a top 10 list, and you're on the top
10 list. Wow, okay, thank you very much. So kind of getting started, we're sitting here in Broomfield, Denver area. How does that play into your, how'd you get here, and a little bit about your starting point in this area?
Sure. So you already mentioned it is beautiful here. I used to work in Boulder, which is right up against the mountains, and I had this little startup company, and I'd be working and 50 feet off of the side of the runway at the Boulder airport. And all day long, these annoying airplanes would just, this was back in the mid to late 90s. So, I said, I need to go figure out what this is. My dad had always taken me to air shows. He's from San Diego, and so we would do the Blue Angels, and we'd do Miramar and all that back in the 80s. And he had a passion for aviation, but never pursued it. And I think it's something you're born with. And then you discover it. And then it torments you, and then you go figure it out. So back in, I think it was 1999, I got my private pilot's license. I'll give my first shout out. Brian Butler was my
what year was that?
This was 1998 and 99.
Okay, 98, 99.
Wow, a long time ago. Brian was a wonderful instructor, and he showed me, the joys of aviation, talking about his career as a flight instructor. And right up against the foothills, it doesn't get prettier. And then, flew for many years on my own, just enjoying taking friends up, like we all do. And then took a break while having kids much later, and then, woke up one day and said, I need to get back into this. So, a lot of pilots take a break.
Oh, I know that feeling.
But the beauty of the license is, it's good for life, and you can take a break, you can save some money, you can have other life events, and then jump right back in.
Mm-hmm. And that's really kind of a little bit, while we're talking about your story today, I hear that so often where people get the bug, they get the front end training, and then something draws them away. But what happens is something draws them back too.
Right.
And they say, just like you said, they woke up and boy, what I want to do is I want to get back to that. And so with that, you got your private pilots, you got energized, motivated into it. And then you were, a big part of, again, what I knew you as was your training background. And so how did all the training start, and how did that then ramp up to where you are kind of today here at the flight school?
Sure. So in 2006, I got that bug again and said, I'm going to jump back in. I, again, didn't really know what my plan was. And you know, the good flight instructors keep you motivated. So I prepared for a flight review like we all do, and I over prepared, and I said, I'm gonna show this flight instructor, whoever this person was, somebody I didn't know, and I'm gonna show them, I prepared for this.
Okay.
And I got my flight review, and I remember at the end of the flight review, a simple conversation. Well, why don't you go get your commercial license? Oh, no, why don't you go get your instrument? And a few simple words of, no, I think you would be able to do that and do well at it. Gave me that confidence to go pursue ratings. And so immediately I had some immediate goals: instrument rating, commercial rating, instructor, and further. So back in 2006, that became this is why I'm doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So a few key words from an instructor, right? The importance of the rapport with the people you work with and connect with. Impressionable moment.
Right, right. And then it took you, again, you've not just gained those ratings, you leverage them and use them as a tool,
Right.
and that motivation that
Oh, I
you
guess
bring.
I should. Thanks, Tim. 2006. Right, that motivational speech.
Right.
Just got me going.
And I think that kind of one of the themes that I hear people talk about, and you're indirectly, we're going to get to more of that, is there's so many people out there that think they can't do it. And they just need someone to say, it's not a goal that you can't reach. You just need to get
Right.
dedicated and go out and do it. And that's probably what you do every day.
Yeah, and there's a different pace for everybody, right? It isn't you've got 6 months to figure this out. A college course has a start and a finish.
Mm-hmm.
It's whatever pace you want.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly in that pursuit of the next rating or the next accomplishment, there's gaps. There's financial gaps. There's whatever. So it's whatever your pace, and that makes it really, I think, enabling for so many people.
Mm-hmm. You don't have to get in 6 months and one and done and whatever. You can pace yourselves, but just stay motivated, stay focused,
Mm-hmm.
get out there and have some fun with it. And so, how much of your time? I know you balancing your time, or how much time do you spend in the training side versus your out of training business? Because I know you've got another very successful career that pays probably for the bills for this beautiful aircraft behind us here, which, by the way, thank you for allowing us to...
And kids.
and kids. So paying, well, I'm not sure in which order, but in any case, the kids, the plane, what do you do to help support the rest of your passion?
Easy answer is there's no reason to sleep. Right? There's no reason to be sitting on the couch watching TV. I know that sounds silly and it's not a burnout, path, but there's a lot of time in beautiful mornings. 6 a.m. is just a beautiful time of day. There's afternoons, there's weekends, there's ways to mix it in. Now, being a full-time instructor, that's pretty unrealistic, having a full-time career. But there are great ways to have a path in aviation or a career in aviation, even part-time.
Mm-hmm. And how much of your time do you? What's a normal training week look like? How many hours does that consume of yours?
I asked that of myself when I reviewed my logbook to see kind of my annual hours. Right? Everybody talks about, hey, how many? The magic number. Hey, how many hours do you have? How much do you fly?
Right.
And I tend to be around 250 to 300 hours a year, which kind of blew me away. That sounds like a bunch.
Mm-hmm.
So, I have put myself in a position to, I like to say, I focus on the fun stuff. So I'm not teaching primary students anymore. I'm not teaching instrument ratings. I focus on mountain training, focus on safety, the things I do for the flight school. I focus on spin training and some specialty things. And then for those that I've been flying with for years, hey, I need a flight review, or I need and so because these flight opportunities as a flight instructor, I don't need to fly 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, to match somebody's schedule.
Mm-hmm.
So I have it really good, right? The people I fly with, you and I schedule well in advance because you're coming in from out of town, and we can put some things on the calendar. It's not a grind whatsoever.
Yeah, and one of the first things when I called out here, and I didn't know, all I knew is that I had one of my sons moved to the Denver area, and so it seemed to me like I need to get to a point where I could maybe fly here. And when I called the flight school, I said, I want to talk to somebody who can kind of work with, somebody that's average and
Somebody
doesn't,
who's in the top 10.
Somebody that wants to learn about mountain training, and they immediately said, well, you got to call Matt. That was the first thing that came out. So I was very fortunate that, at the end of the day, that you and I hooked up on that front, and we've been able to spend some time together. And it's I don't know, it's hard to describe how pretty it is up there. But with it, again, kind of a shout out to you on. I've never felt that there was a moment that we didn't know exactly where we were, exactly what we were going to do next, and exactly what could have. Just there's those things, the planning. It's in my head because of what you said. So kind of with that, that to me speaks to safety. And I know here at the flight school, while you're doing the straight, the training, all those the fun things, as you said.
Yep.
You, I know because I see you spend a good bit of time on your the safety role here. Mm-hmm. And how did that hat, when you're wearing that hat, what does that mean?
Yeah, so we were talking about my path back in 2006 and CFI, CFII, MEI, all the things people usually go through, and it's been really exciting the last few years as an additional role, Director of Safety for Rocky Mountain Flight School. And on one hand, you could think of that as a paperwork job, sitting around. On the other hand, you could think of it as I spend all my time creating AOPA videos, which I would love to do. Yeah. It's a great. What I do is a balance of many different things, and I'll go through some of those. The flight school started in 2008. I started flying there in 2009, and from 3 instructors, maybe 5 airplanes, to now I think 30 instructors, 40 airplanes, 100 hours a day. So there's a lot of activity. And in my corporate world, as an engineer, I love procedures, I love accuracy, I love consistency, I love standard operating procedures. And so it was a great mix to see an opportunity like, 3 people are instructing on a particular aspect 3 different ways. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily the training content, but maybe something with regard to safety. Okay, that's interesting. Maybe not a fan of this approach. Ooh, this is a good approach. And this could use some adjustments. So my passion from my engineering background jumped into, hey, how about we organize? And the end result may not be realized right now, but the end result of, wow, we have an amazing safety record. Mm-hmm. The renters, the students, the instructors. I spend most of my time with the instructor base, right? Because that's the source of knowledge and the source of teaching. Mm-hmm. And these impressionable students, we're all impressionable, but if you learn from your instructor, you walk around this way and you skip these 3 things, well, that's what you're going to do probably until you have a flight review with somebody else and they give you a hard time. So, well, this is the way I've always learned. Mm-hmm. And so I really love recognizing things where we can maybe have some standards.
Gaps.
Yeah, gaps as well as standards. Gaps are a good one, right? We have a lot of instructors that come in from their background and, hey, let's bring you into Rocky Mountain Flight School and show you some of the ways we do things. Mm-hmm. So it fills in a gap or at least creates a consistency. And then what's wonderful is it allows the students to, rotate through instructors. Hey, my instructor's out of town. Can I fly with another instructor? And that consistency, I think, adds a lot of value and safety.
Yeah, that's a really great point because any of my apprehension when I go and fly with someone, a new CFI for for some training or check ride or whatever, is look for that consistency. And I got to say, while I've been blessed with really some good people to fly with, they are different in how they go about things.
I think of things that come out of my mouth or whatever I'm writing on the board kind of in several categories. Number one is regulatory. What I'm telling you, or what an instructor is instructing you on, is regulatory. You must comply. Okay, those are straightforward. We know how to look those up. The next one is the aircraft limitations, the POH. Hey, can I set this to this and this and this? If it's in the POH, yes. If it's not, then probably not. So something I might say is specific to the aircraft. The next one, something that comes out of my mouth, might be with regard to safety. Hey, let's turn 20 degrees to the right. Okay, well, why? I'm going this way. Well, due to safety, right? And let's talk about that. So something coming out of my mouth might be regulatory, aircraft specific, or safety. And then the fourth one is style. And this one's a lot of fun, and sometimes I try to point this out with people. What I'm about to tell you is my style. You've seen other styles with your other instructors. Feel free to create your own style as incorporate pieces from other instructors.
How they put it all together.
Yeah. And so sometimes I'm really clear. What I'm about to tell you or ask you to do is a style thing. So take it as that. You may like it, may
Right.
incorporate. One of the most famous ones is, what's your pre-landing checklist? And everybody has a this or a that, or a C-gumps, CC gumps, or this. Awesome. So I'll show you my style, and feel free to throw it away or add to it.
Or modify it.
And I think differentiating between those things helps instructors really impart the right things in the right bucket to their students.
One of the things that I noticed in your style, speaking of style, was, again, I keep not harping on it, but emphasizing it, is the safety. And it comes in different bits and pieces. It's not a safety cop.
Right, right.
It's a safety embracer, for lack of a better term. All the things we talk about and do, and we're in an airplane, we're in the sky, we have, there are consequences of not doing the right thing, and as I
Right.
said, having specifically in the mountains here, what to do next and what to prepare for. Maybe that's a great transition. Tell me about mountain flying a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how I get the pleasure. I'm a little biased, so I kind of know what the starting point is, but how does it all work?
Look at it all day long.
Yeah.
Beautiful backdrop.
Yeah, just as what Matt's looking at. We're sitting in his hangar today, of course, but just on the other side of the camera is the mountains, and it's overwhelming. But anyway,
Well,
mountain
right
flying.
now we sit at 5,600 feet. You and I have been up at 14,000 feet, maybe even above, and it's really fun to see. Certainly, someone from your perspective, being from sea level, I've heard these words before. I've never seen the altimeter so high. I've never seen it go past 10,000.
Right.
So it's such a joy to see it even through other people's eyes. But we sit here at 5,600 feet. Density altitude is obnoxious. We're going to have a 91-degree afternoon. Anybody can look at their performance charts and say, my performance chart doesn't go that high. So what do? Right, we're flying single engine or multi-engine piston-powered airplanes, somewhere between 120 horsepower and 300 horsepower. All of those have some level of capability at those altitudes, and some of them right on the edge. So one of the things I love about mountain flying is it's really understanding the environment, your airplane, and then navigating, studying weather, point A, point B. What an accomplishment.
One of the things that's a great point. First thing I did is I'm thinking about, okay, I'm going to load the GPS. I'm going to get ForeFlight out, and I'm going to have a direct. I'm going to call flight following.
And then I take it away from you, and I'm like, nope.
And then you said, well, no, see Pikes Peak over there. That's where we're starting. And it's true pilotage
Yeah.
at a place that, truthfully, again, us folks at sea level, we just don't have that type of experience on a day-to-day basis. And I know I've called you and emailed you a couple of times thinking, okay, now that I'm ready to go out and take a flight, and I'm thinking, okay, how would I get back over all this? So it is knowing your terrain and all those type of things. But you, right off the bat, showed me that flying in the mountains is not about just following the GPS.
Yeah, and you know, I do that with everyone. I don't mean to take away this beautiful resource called an iPad and ForeFlight, but I do want to be looking outside.
Right.
Because one of the things is identifying low terrain, high terrain, getting that perspective you and I've been through with. Do you really think we're going to cross that? Great, let's go see what the perspective looks like as we get closer. So I really love head outside. Not that I expect people to memorize, okay, go to this farmhouse, go to this lake, and there you go. There's an infinite number of ways to do things. But I want to take people away from these, like we do on the flatlands, these prescribed routes. I'm going to go from this point to this point to this point. Right? I want to also teach that flexibility. As the bumps get intense or the downdrafts happen or we don't like something, we need to alter our course. So, you know, staring outside and always having that situational awareness of, okay, here's my lower terrain. Here, I can visually see it.
Right.
And then, you know, sometimes we're far from what we planned, and sometimes that was pretty darn close. You know, we do so much flight training for navigation in our private and commercial and instrument, VORs and waypoints, and you know, some of those just aren't usable. Also a great way to enjoy the view, too.
Right, and so I really, again, it's just another aspect. So all you guys got to get out here watching this and get with Matt and try this out, because it was a little bit, it made me feel a little like, okay, I'm good, but it takes a confidence of getting comfortable with. The other thing that was clear on our very first flight is we were going to, as I recall, Leadville. And you could see it long before I could, but we were up there and the clouds were kind of coming in from the distance. You could kind of see that. We got up over the ridge there, and Leadville was not too far off, but the winds were kind of, and so weather is always a factor, of course. But weather, talk a little bit about weather and how quickly it changes and how it really is in my opinion, a bigger opportunity for a problem than down at sea level.
Yeah, unfortunately, here in most places, the winds and the weather generally come from the west to the east. And we have this row of mountains right here that does a lot to hold weather back and then release weather. So number one is, I wake up in the morning, I have a great view of the mountains, and I look west. So pretty easy to get a clue of what's going on early.
Right.
The things we're concerned about are, can our aircraft get to where we need to be? Climbing, holding altitude, getting over a mountain pass, and then getting in. Right? A lot of times we fly with scattered clouds or even broken clouds, but they're well above. At these altitudes, at 14,000 feet in our Cessnas and Pipers and even Moonies, we don't have a lot of room to climb above something. Terrain is too high. We don't have a chance to go lower. We may be blocked with mountains. We can't go left or to the right. So again, a lot of it is visual. Looking at the forecasts, looking at the weather coming from the west. Winds, clouds, those are our key factors.
And last time we were up, we caught a little snow, which was kind of a neat.
It's
we
in
caught
the
some
summer.
flurries there in the summer,
That's
and
right.
out of nowhere we came around, and I said, I think that's snow.
That's right.
We were up at, I don't remember what altitude,
That's
but we
right.
did catch some
now,
snow.
1,000 people are watching saying, you guys, what?
Yeah.
So let's cover that one real quick.
Yeah.
Right. So also, in Colorado, there's in the summertime we have what we call isolated thunderstorms.
Okay.
Right? If there's a front coming through, we tend to know that days in advance. Hey, this front is coming through, so we're going to have a lot of clouds. They may not be convective, but we're going to have a lot of clouds, and there may be a line, and we can go to it, and that's as far as we can go. But in most cases, there's isolated thunderstorms or isolated clouds that have precipitation. I think you and I flew, and we had some isolated clouds, and some of them had virga, and some of them had nothing underneath. And we're not just picking our way through clouds, but we're being mindful of where they are, where they're building, and plenty of room to avoid. And in some cases, they're very benign, right? An isolated something. So you and I had some virga, and we decided, let's go through it so we can see the effects, right? Is it going to push us down? Is it going to bump us around? As always, right? Always knowing we have an escape. A little to the left, a little to the right, we're out of it. But let's go
Try
feel
it.
what it does, right? It's the best experience in a very controlled environment. And didn't realize how cold it was up top and up at that altitude. And we got some snow.
We got some snow. And the other thing that, again, kind of focus on mountaineering here a little bit, is the updrafts and the downdrafts. That is a skill set that is learned, not read about. And I say that because you have been 95% all the time. We get some, you say, hey, we're going to get an updraft here. And
I used to be 96% accurate. So
okay, maybe drop down a little bit. Yeah,
Thanks.
but every time you've said it, boom, we're up or we're coming down. And it's really a tool in your toolkit for flying around the mountains.
Yeah, you and I've spent a lot of time, right? The VSI becomes really, really a valuable instrument. Gives us our rate of climb, rate of descent, and we're looking for updrafts if we need the lift, and we'll enjoy the elevator ride up. Or, you know, the evil brother being the downdrafts, where we don't have the performance to outpace 1,000 foot a minute downdraft from some column of air coming down. The air could be coming down, the downdraft could occur because of, a thunderstorm or some activity in the cloud is pushing rain down and the wind is going with it, we have a downdraft. Or in a lot of cases, as the wind goes around or up and over the mountains, like the bottom of a stream,
Right.
there's the front side of a mountain, and there's your rising air, and then, if the air is stable, it wants to come right back down. And so being mindful of generally the winds are from the west, looking at the terrain, and we took some calculated estimates that this ridge might have some lift. Let's go take a look. Let's use it to our advantage. And we had some fun looking for those 1,000 foot a minute climbs.
And we did. We found some in another place. We tried it, and we came back around. And again, another shout out to safety. We as I recall, we were going one direction, and it wasn't getting there. And you kind of thought, hey, let's take this around a little bit. Let's follow it down. And sure enough, we picked something up. So
yeah, sorry to interrupt. A couple key things, right? Always have an escape, and always be ready to escape.
Right. And make that decision early, and that
Right.
Good stuff. Make sure you remember that, everybody that's out there. Specifically, if you haven't, I enjoy just talking about it and get ramped up over the whole thing, thinking about the mountain flying. And if you haven't done it, I mean, I kind of going back, I go back from here and I see my flight instructor, Ed, shout out to you. We've talked about this. And he's like, and he's very competent flight instructor, and he's never had a chance to do this. And so I talk about, I tell him that we get in the plane and we take the iPad away, and we got to use this, and we got to use this, to get us our brains and the eyeballs to where we're going. So it's really just a really unique opportunity. One of the other things that I took away and I want to talk about is, I always like to talk about family, because family is important, first of all, but family in the regard to flying, I think it's interesting to see how family influences people's ability to fly and where, their success in flying. But the family I want to talk about first is your flying family.
Okay.
And the other thing that struck me, and it demonstrated your influence and your knowledge in the area, was we couldn't go anywhere flying whether we were at Eagle or wherever we were at. They heard your voice, and they immediately started a conversation with you because they knew, and you had this code and a lot of different things that you were using that I was just fascinated with. But you have a really, what I would say, an impressive aviation family and network, not only here at the airfield and stuff like that. So let's talk about some of that, because that's important, and it's important to your success, and it made me feel really comfortable because they knew I was with you and I was in good hands.
That's great. Wow, I've never heard quite an introduction like that. That's a great topic. It's like any relationship. You build rapport, you have connections, you establish a way of communicating that is very specific, very direct, especially in what we do, in flying. And I've met I think I've been flying out of this airport for 25 years. And that, not that I sit around at the hangar and shake hands with everybody that walks by, but you build relationships. Certainly with folks through the flight school, instructor base, students, renters, and where you're kind of going is air traffic control.
Yeah, and you're I think you have a term you call hashtag, or how does that work again?
Well, in any good friendships and rapport, you develop either nicknames or, a nod, a greeting that's like, hey, we're connected.
Right.
So for years we've had some nicknames, with air traffic control and myself, and we weave it in when we can so as to not distract. I want to be clear, we're not distracting from all the activities.
No, and you don't. It happens so fast, truthfully, that it's part of the vernacular, actually, that it just works.
So the beautiful folks here at the tower, we've been working together for a long time, and I like to call it working together.
Right.
We're not just, I'm a pilot and I have requests and they have approvals and instructions, but we work together to help general aviation and the airport. We do things offline to increase safety, come up with some policies. Hey, is this working for you all at the flight school? Is this working? Hey, we're doing this. Does this work for you for air traffic control? I'll give a couple of shout outs. We've got, some of the great folks up at the tower, hashtag JC, hashtag Kitty, hashtag Squirrel, hashtag Tyler, hashtag Brian, hashtag Matt, and then I'm hashtag Maddie.
Okay. And that's where they came across this hashtag, and I'm thinking, okay, I've failed to know something else here, but they...
It's a great way to say hello.
Right.
It's a great way to establish, cool, and then sometimes we even have additional conversations. Hey, can you go take a look at something while you're out?
Correct.
Yesterday there was somebody requested, can you go overfly Costco? We're looking about making a new waypoint. Do you mind going to overfly Costco? You bet. All right, what's it look like? Well, it's kind of hard to determine. So we're working together to look at some new ways of getting in out of the airport. So there's a great example of, being able to work together, have friends, have a great rapport.
Mm-hmm. And you, it's very concise. It's like I said, if you didn't know any better, or if you were kind of on the outside, I was just kind of picking it up a little bit because I'm trying to get everything right and do my thing in kind of some new territory. But it was crisp, and it showed friendship and respect.
Yeah.
And that's what I really liked about it too. And it's got to be on their end, and I've never been a controller. They got a very busy lifestyle and tough duty, but it's got to bring them a little confidence too when they know you're out there.
I hope so.
Yeah, well, I bet it does.
So
I bet it does.
I got my private pilot at a non-towered airport in Boulder, and I had to do the requirements of going to a towered airport, and so nervous.
Yeah, sure.
And then cool, I got my tower time done. Whew.
Right.
And so it's been great to now recognize that there's no reason to be intimidated. These are people doing their best to keep us safe, to coordinate traffic. And I love when, I say hello and they say hello. And then when they give me an instruction that might be something I wasn't expecting, or something that's going to impact my time to get in because we're very busy, we have that mutual respect. You're doing this for a reason. Sometimes I see pilots with, I can't believe, ATC vectored me left, right. Okay, well, how about you go take a tower tour, get to know them, and understand why things are happening. It's for a reason. It's not just to, well, you're not a high-paying Boeing, you're going to be delayed. There's a reason.
Yeah.
And so that friendship and rapport and visiting the tower, working together.
Well, I think what you said there, and this is another, I hope people take this away, is it's very real. I know with me it's still that way because I traditionally work out of non-towered, but I'm around a lot, in my neck of the woods. And so I get to talk to a lot of controllers and towers and stuff still. But as you told me, a little bit of embarrassment moment, you said, Wade, you're too nice.
Oh, yeah. I do remember.
Yeah. You said, and once again, I took it no, but it's like, keep that nose up a little bit. I got it. That's what I liked in your style. But, I have a tendency to want to be very deliberate and probably drag it on too much because I just want to be as clear as I can, and sometimes I'm too long. And so that's good.
And that's
I think
not
about
a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. But there's that first impression, and I think there's a tendency for people to want to make a wonderful first impression. And one of the best examples, this is not you. Somebody calling from 15 miles away. Hey, I'm by the lake, and I'm at 7,200 feet. I'm descending. And if you don't mind, I would love to come in if you've got time. Do you want me to go a little to the left? Cessna 1234. Okay, wonderful first impression, but we do need to be deliberate and specific.
Right.
And I actually get back to what the AIM says, the key
components.
items.
And you're not, the thing is, I guess maybe I'm a little bit, I don't want to offend anybody or whatever. And there's a little bit of that confusion in my head. And it's only in my head. I've never, had anybody or the controller say, hey, they want to know that I'm hearing what they're saying. But I thought that was just another, and I think about that now. When I push that key, that mic, I'm thinking about trying to make it a little bit. So again, this is not a training lesson on radio calls, but I hope you there's got to be someone else out there that's probably in the same boat as me that's thinking about, you have to be a little nicer or whatever. And I think you put it, that's what I like, you put it right on the table, said you don't have to be that nice. And not to be derogatory to anybody, but what you were trying to make a point is you can be more effective.
Yeah, your first impression is actually, highest on the list when you match the phraseology and you're clear and concise. Not with an arrogance or a demand.
Sure.
You also hear the other extreme where it's, hey, this is who I am. You should know who I am, and this is what I'm going to do.
Right.
That doesn't
feel
start
right
things
either.
well.
That's the other spectrum. So you have a very robust aviation family, and how about your immediate family?
All right.
You got kids. You got all kinds of things going, and how do they play into aviation? Put that all together.
I don't know if I call them kids anymore.
Well, my kids, and they're saying the same thing. Stop calling us kids. But for me, my kids will always be my kids.
I've got the best family, right? So I'll give a shout out. I've got Andrew, he's 20, he's up in college. I've got Fish, he's 17, he's finishing up high school. The best boys ever. They're enjoying life. We fly together, and I look forward to their, awesome lives ahead. Been raising two boys.
Well, that's just a starting point, but you kids are lucky. I've really enjoyed, and you've got a dad that's focused on his family, clearly. Keep going.
All right, so then I have the world's best fiance. Did I tell you I'm getting married?
I think I heard something about that.
Did I only say it once?
Well, a few times,
all
I
right,
think.
all right,
and my biggest problem is I didn't want to get in the way of that. I got my months all messed up. But go ahead.
So I'm engaged. Megan is my fiance, and she and I enjoy adventures in Miss Daisy right here. And she's got the world's best daughter, Rowan. So I will soon have a really awesome stepdaughter.
Okay.
And then a couple dogs and 2 cats with another cat on the way. So we've got a lot of activity.
You've got a lot of activity in your house, and I shout out. Is it Megan? Megan, shout out to you. I tried to talk Matt into having you sit with us a little bit today, and I know geographically it was a little bit of a challenge, but we may figure out how to do that sometime in one of our trips out here, because he speaks obviously so highly of you, and looking really forward to your new journey. And to know that Miss Daisy here is a part of it probably is pretty exciting as well. I know you were, I think in some of our earlier discussion, you probably have some cockpit stories of you and Megan in the airplane and how things went. And is she your right seat, takes care of making sure everything's going right over there? And how does she play into your
Great
travels?
question. Well, I have a great topic, which is how much she's helped we'll call it bedside manner.
Okay.
Right, in the cockpit. We'll talk about that now. Phraseology, you and I, we are by the book. We are tuning a frequency. We're talking to ATC. But as an instructor, or even as a pilot, when we're flying family, friends, loved ones, the words out of our mouth are really important. And she has been great to help me have a much improved bedside manner. Some great examples. You and I do this all the time. We're flying along and we tune a frequency or we make a mistake and we say, oops, that was wrong. And to somebody who is maybe on the outside looking in, what do you mean, oops? You're the pilot. You're in charge of
You're
our
supposed to have it
safety.
right, yeah.
Look at all the passengers. What do you mean by oops?
Right.
And you think about it, I wouldn't expect my 737 captain to be saying, oops. That was weird.
Oops, I missed that waypoint.
And it's been great for her to help me see the words out of my mouth under all circumstances. I want to be a professional pilot at all times, right? I don't want to just jump in and hot rod and say woohoo, and I don't want to be that person. And part of that is carrying yourself with a professionalism. And it's not just my responsibility to fly us to our destination, but it's also to, ensure everybody on board that, we're high safety, we know what's going on, there are no issues, and that exude that confidence. And the phraseology is amazing. The couple key things, that's weird. What is weird? What is
Right,
weird? Define weird. Going back to when I became a flight instructor, my DPE, shout out to Drew Chaitia, he had a really great impressionable moment, which is, and I used it with you, use proper phraseology. And as an instructor, I think this is one of the most valuable, simple lessons. All right, we're in good shape, drop the flaps. What does that mean? What does we're in good shape? What does that mean? And what does drop the flaps mean? You've got someone with 0 hours or 10 hours. There's no concept on what that means.
Right.
And they're just,
Okay.
high tense, like,
I guess we're okay.
I guess we're okay. So you want me to go move this lever? Okay. Or, hey, let's pull the gear. Let's pull the gear up. Or let's crank it to the right. These are things we might say in fun conversation, but it's not proper phraseology. And when he explained that, I really try hard. Let's extend the flaps to the first notch. Okay. Let's retract the landing gear.
Right.
We are in good shape to turn base. That aircraft is clear. Let's turn base. Right. So that.
Think it, speak it.
And I don't want to be boring and dry, but I need to be very specific. And that also includes when I'm not instructing. Okay, that's the incorrect frequency. Let me tune the correct frequency. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Confirmed. Right. I want to actually carry that mantra, not just instruction, but
That
every day.
actually, I think, and I find myself, because I'm very, in the plane and out of the plane, I'm probably a little different person. And, but in the plane, I'm to your point, I like to call things out many times, sometimes for the benefit of my passengers so they can have maybe an understanding of what's going on.
Yeah.
And try to be deliberate about that. So I think it's good practice, first of all, because if you verbalize it, then you may be thinking about it, and
Verbalizing it is an excellent way to create routine and good standard operating procedures. Your passengers will pick up on those things, and they may learn something. They may kind of ignore the turbulence because they're trying to listen to you and learn something.
And it makes them you want to make them comfortable. And that's one of the things you said also is, in that VSI, that may not be comfortable for our passengers at 1,000 feet, one way or the other,
Right.
So it's an awareness of, your passengers and taking care of them. You think of all the interfaces that you command when you're flying. You're talking to ATC, you're talking to the environment, you're talking inside environment, your passengers, and putting all that together and everything you do when how we started this. Oops, is that the way we start? Hold it. What? Oops. How big of an oops was that?
I have only been in a helicopter as a passenger once, and I'm, as I share this story with you, I know nothing about helicopters. And if that helicopter pilot taking me on this tour we were on said, oops, that would do something.
Well, from your perspective, yeah.
So
what does
I
that
can really
really mean?
appreciate, so she's been great for helping my bedside manner.
Perfect. Well, it sounds like you've got a lot going on with your family.
Yeah.
You got a big, a nice, wonderful change in your life coming up, a union.
Yep.
I guess is what we, a marriage there. So that's great, and I can hardly wait to meet her real time. So we'll manage that too here, not too far down the road.
Sounds great.
Kind of thinking of equipment stuff, and once again, we've got, what do we have behind us here? It's an airplane, I know that.
Yeah.
But what kind of airplane, and what kind of other aircraft have you had the pleasure? You mentioned helicopters, that's probably not on your list right now.
Not on the list.
But what other
So
aircraft have you had?
helicopters don't actually fly. They are just so ugly the earth repels them.
A helicopter pilot cousin of mine said something about it's noise and chaos, or some crazy, and he flew them, so it's I got to have a real respect for him at some point.
Yep. So this is our airplane. Her name is Miss Daisy, and she's a Mooney Bravo. So turbocharged, 6-cylinder, fuel injected. We have about 270 horsepower, and the turbo is key. Not that we have a lot of turbos around here, but for flying in these mountains, it does give us a lot more margin. So we get a real nice opportunity to go. We explore and go hiking and take the dogs, and yeah.
But you've had a number of other aircraft. You probably
So I fly quite a few, and that's a fun part of being an instructor, right? And also the type of instruction I do. So I've had an opportunity to fly a real diverse set. One of the things I also do is, with having a lot of connections and friends and just a network in general aviation. Somebody buys an airplane, and their insurance says, you need to fly with Matt for 25 hours, or you need to fly with Matt for 10 hours before we will insure you. So I get a lot of phone calls. Sometimes it's, hey, I'm thinking about buying this airplane. Can we go get some time in a similar make and model? Okay. And in some cases, hey, I bought this airplane. I don't know how to fly it.
Either case is probably the same outcome, but one's a real leap.
Yeah. And I'll give some shout outs, it's not the former case, but helping people get hours, and shout out to Justin Sen and Joe Morey and Jeff Gross, Mike Myers, lots of aircraft owners, CJ.
That you've helped make that transition.
And I
That's
really
pretty cool.
love that. I mean, it's a great opportunity to help somebody get to a goal. And again, it's not a rating. All right, 3 days a week, we're in the air for 3 hours. This is something, we manage both of our calendars, and let's go build some hours so that you can get experience in your plane. So lots of Moonies and Saratogas and tailwheel, and so I get a lot of diversity in that.
You get just by that alone, which probably keeps you fresh and keeps you, the diversity keeps you excited about, I would imagine, and to help someone out like that, that's wonderful.
And one trick that all instructors do that's a lot of fun is, as you are entering the cockpit in a plane you haven't flown before or in a while, or a new, dashboard to you, as you step into the plane, you look real quickly to see where all the switches are, especially the avionics switch, so that when the person that owns the plane or the student, where's the avionics switch? Oh, it's clearly right there.
Right,
so we all do a quick glance over, right?
I gotta, because again, in our little flight school, which is a wonderful little flight school, there's 7 172s, and each of them's a little different.
Yeah.
And when I jump in with you, that's the first thing I'm thinking about is, okay, switch gears, refresh myself, because I think I've had to ask you, okay, where are we at? Because through the repetition, you need a little bit more of that, but you have to kind of get your bearings.
And I really encourage instructors out there to go work towards that diversity, right? Many instructors are working towards their hours to get to the airlines. So however they get their hours, and it might be relegated to 3 airplanes, and that's the scope of their instruction, or the scope of their checkouts. I encourage instructors to be checked out in as many as possible. One, you get more opportunities for customers and clients, right? You get more flying opportunities. Yeah, you might have to spend a little money to get your checkout complete. But I think that diversity in airplanes really adds to somebody's knowledge base, experience base. That's critical.
You mentioned commercial. Now, have you ever thought that where you are, and I kind of don't want to steal this thunder of where you want to go, or how all this is, what's next too, but commercial ever on your mind, or
No, not
does
really.
not really interest you, that aspect of it?
No, and it's been great. I've been instructing since 2011, and there's the expectation you teach private pilots, you teach commercial pilots, and then you get to some marketability. Maybe it's the 1,500 hours,
Right.
and you could go be a corporate pilot, you could go towards the airlines, you could find a family that owns a fancy jet and be their pilot on retainer. All wonderful careers. I think I've realized I really enjoy helping others achieve their goals, and I find fulfillment in that. So teaching mountain training, spin training, aircraft checkouts, learning new airplanes. The goal might be short. This is great. I now know how to fly my own airplane. I think that's a great path for me, and so I've enjoyed that.
Well, if it feels good, do it. And clearly your passion around, and while aviation is right up there, your passion around being around people and helping them get to their goals is great. Great. It's really.
Yeah.
I talked to one gentleman who was in commercial for a while as a youngster, and he said it just didn't. It was kind of. I mean, it's important to us. It's going to be important to me when I go back to Virginia.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
But it was not. It didn't bring that fire to him. It was A, B, C. It was procedurally.
I had a
going
friend
through
of
the
mine
steps.
who was a longtime United pilot, and he was a very people person. And he had transitioned careers to be a pilot, and he lost that connection to people. It's people getting on and leaving. There's no relationship building. So it's don't worry about you have to follow a path to commercial aviation. There are so many ways
To be in it.
to be in it.
I think you gave 2 or 3 great examples I hadn't even thought about, whether it's finding somebody. It's like having a good friend with a big boat. You find someone with
That's
a plane,
right.
that they need a little
That's
help with
right.
it, and doing that on the side can be wonderful.
Well, you had mentioned we were talking earlier about the different aircraft I've
Yeah.
flown, and I don't know how this ties in, but I wanted to make sure I mention this. One of the other joys I have is, our flight schools become pretty large. We're known around the world, and for great safety and great prices and capabilities. And one of the things that I really enjoy, which is also why I don't see commercial aviation in my future, is people do come around from the country and around the world to come fly with me, and it's something they've never done. They get experience. They feel really good about it. They've accomplished their goal, and then they go back and spread knowledge on their own. So I love having flown with so many different people from even around the world. I want to make sure I give a shout out to Wade, because you're one of those. Right?
Oh,
Come
well,
from the
thank you.
East Coast, and
I'm on the shout out list. I
you're on the
appreciate that,
shout-outs.
because
Shout out to
that's
Wade.
wonderful.
I think the furthest away is Philip Arthur from Australia.
Wow.
Came to Colorado to fly with me and do our mountain training course. That's about as far away as I can
That's
fit.
pretty
So
impressive.
shout out to Philip
Well,
and lots of others.
Well, you were saying also, and I wanted to kind of, maybe that's a great place to transition to where you've flown. I think you said you've flown out of country yourself, not only around the country, but out of country as well.
Yeah. It's in Colorado. There's so much to do, so you could never get bored. However, these memories are wonderful to have of flying in different areas. So I've had a lot of chances to fly at sea level, and as experienced as I think I am, flying at sea level is very different. I remember my first time at sea level was this tiny little runway, and I'm thinking, okay, that's pretty short. And then having to do 2 go-arounds because the plane would not come down.
Okay.
It's just, what is it with all this air?
Right.
And I'm doing a checkout, so there's an instructor who doesn't know me, and all of a sudden my confidence is, and he's, let's try that again. It's like, wow. So, additional experiences outside of your local area are super valuable. I learned a ton. It was 3,500 foot runway. In Colorado, that's pretty short. At sea level, that was nothing. And so that experience is great. So I think I've tackled a third or half of the Bravos in the country, so that's a lot of fun.
Wow.
Yeah, San Diego. My dad lived in San Diego. I'll do a quick story there. Um, and so I would fly in San Diego and take him up flying. And remember, I told you earlier his passion for aviation, but he never pursued it.
Okay.
So I was trying to get that spark now that
Yeah.
I'm
Fulfill some of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we had a lot of fun, and this was before September 11th. And I remember a fun story. We were coming back to Montgomery Field, and I'm talking to Tower. We're coming in. I'm a private pilot. This is 99 or 2000. Coming in for a landing, and they're clearing me and to turn and do these certain things. And I look down and I realize I don't see any Cessnas down there. Those are all jets. And in an instant, I realized I was on final approach to Miramar Air Force Base. And it was the first time I ever cussed in front of my dad. And it was the same time Towers says, you're at the wrong airport, because they're very in close proximity.
Okay.
They look very similar. See, I'm trying to explain
Right.
how I caused that. And it was the first time I, cussed in front of my dad. But, those are experiences that, help. Getting out of your local area. Flying in Canada in a float plane, just majestic. Flying in Poland is one of my favorites. Done that several times, and my favorite part there is heading to. There's a little section of Russia, right at the Baltic Sea, and flying right to the Russian border, waving to Kaliningrad, and then out over the Baltic Sea in a 172 at 90 knots. I didn't think I'd be deemed a threat.
Right.
And, I had people with me from Poland, and they're looking at me like, what are you doing? And I'm this idiot person from the U.S. thinking, what are they going to do? But, great experience in Poland, flown in Mexico, a lot of time in East Coast New York and D.C., just getting the crazy.
Yeah, you've told me that you've been around D.C. and New York, and I'd be lying if I didn't tell you I'm a little intimidated with that, even though I want to do it, but I want to do it when I have somebody with me to, again, get some more experience.
So what you just said is something a lot of people say, and I love to pretend I don't have any, I like to pretend I don't have anxiety at certain environments or certain things, but that's a really great point. So exploring new areas, pushing the limits on airspace usage. Do I want to go around this, or should I call Bravo and see if I can go through it? Well, I really don't want to talk to them, so I'll go around it. Trying airports with different towers. Those are the experiences that, one, grows your level of experience, gains your confidence, and sets you up for when you choose to do it again, or if you have
to do it again. Yes, I guess I'm, my little bit of my own anxiety is more around, I just don't want, I want it to go perfect.
Sure.
And so it's kind of back to the...
But remember, we just talked about air traffic control.
Right, they're there.
When you get to know them, not, maybe not just them, but any air traffic control, right? You can make mistakes. You can do your best, and you exude that you're doing your best. And ATC is wonderful to work with you, unless, of course, it's a crazy environment. Trying to land at Reagan Airport, not very smart, right?
Right.
But, if you give it a shot, we have some new local procedures here that we're using, have local landmarks.
I saw those come out yesterday,
Yeah.
actually, and I was saying, before
There's a
we leave, I'd
hospital,
like to
there's a
understand
wind
that.
farm, there's a lake, and, flying in different areas, and, fly direct to IKEA, which is one kind of bicentennial. Cool, I'll pull it up on my phone and find out where IKEA is, but some of those create intimidations for people to say, what, I've heard Centennial is really crazy, let's avoid it. No.
Okay.
Say unable, unfamiliar, and watch ATC work well to accommodate your level of experience. And wow, when you're done with that, you feel really accomplished and you just grew your capability.
Right.
So you've got to be doing...
You just got to keep breaking through and stick with the basics and like you said, trust, because there is, and I must have watched 1,000, or had an exaggeration, dozens of people tell me what you just said, and talk to controllers that say, hey, we want to help you. We want you to pick up flight following when you can. We want to do those things. And I don't know where that comes from, why we start and we think that's not the case. But it is the case. And so you're going
Always
to get
be.
a one in a dozen that maybe struggles or, has less patience with you. But I think that's really a good, a good shout out for that building that relationship and pushing yourself a little bit in a safe way.
Yeah, my most recent nervous, very anxious, I'm going to do my best, was I had gone down, my boys and I went to Phoenix Sky Harbor in Miss Daisy, and okay, made it look like I knew what I was doing coming in, awesome. And then departing was before the sun rose. So it's nothing but a sea of blinking lights and Boeings and Airbus everywhere. And I made a mistake on the ground. I didn't switch frequencies, and so I'd been sitting there for a little bit, and I finally switched frequencies, and the tower, slapped my hand. I've been looking for you. Now you can all, as a pilot, that nothing bad happened, nothing unsafe, but I'm glad I pushed myself to go in and out of Sky Harbor, and yes, I got my hand slapped, but what a valuable experience.
Right.
It's not like I'm put safety at risk. I tried real hard, and I learned a local procedure.
Mm-hmm. And we get back to that old concept that in aviation, you're always learning.
Yep.
Right? You're always learning. And sometimes even a little mistake is the best way to, probably learn something. And I'm sure with the hours you have and places you've been, that's a great example. I don't know, any other things went less than perfect in your mind that kind of strikes? I think that was I appreciate the honesty.
I'll do a quick shout out. So Peter Moore was listening to ATC, and so he could tell me his version of it later. So it was fun to hear on live ATC. Yeah, we heard it.
When you were coming in the wrong.
No, when I didn't switch frequencies at Sky Harbor.
Okay. Well, and so
nothing like friends to help remind you.
Yeah, to help remind you or give you a little jab that what you did wrong.
But to that is, I hope I have the humility to be able to talk about it.
That's right.
Right. I am not gonna not tell that story.
Yeah. And because what it does is it kind of gets back to the common theme that I have the pleasure of when I'm talking to people. We all are human, and there are some things, and we want to make sure we don't get in that really bad thing, but things happen that, even on a good day, and you learn from it and you recover. So what a great training moment.
I think you were headed to, all right, tell us more embarrassing stories.
Well, if you have something else you'd like to share with us, I do want to, because again, you have such experiences, not only your own, but with your students and stuff. Not, there's things that probably happen. So I don't know if there's anything else you have on your mind there.
Well, I do have I did want to tell this story. So you had kind of prepped me with, non-perfect days or something that didn't.
Because we want to go to the perfect day, but what was the less than perfect day?
Let's do those first. My favorite one is, it is the day after I got my private pilot's license. I believe it was 1999, and my first passenger was going to be my mom. Shout out to Mom. And she's excited, I'm excited, and it's a 172. It's out of Boulder. It's a non-towered airport. Nobody's there, so it was the safest, simplest environment ever. And I was so excited to explain stuff. I was so excited for us to go sightseeing. She loves the view, and I never did a run-up.
Interesting.
We hopped in, we started it. I'm talking.
You're out there.
I made a radio call to enter the runway, and we took off. And it was about 50 feet off the runway. I realized, I didn't follow a single checklist. I was really embarrassed. Of course, I didn't tell her.
She knows now.
And as you know, there were basics that, of course, checked. The flight controls, all the basics. But there was no checking the mags. There was no leaning procedure. There was no passenger briefing about seatbelts. I just laugh about that because this is my favorite thing right now. I am now over the top. Let's make sure we do a passenger briefing. Okay, but we've flown 1,000 times. Yeah, okay.
Let's just talk through it.
So that's a fun.
Well, that's a good one because I think that one, if mom didn't know that before, she does now. And
Yeah.
I'm sure she probably, it all probably worked out at the end, when, as you were going through all that. And then we flipped the coin a little bit and kind of, you and I had a chance, we've again been talking flying for months now and had some time together. And, I know you've probably got multitude, because you just kind of indirectly talked about perfect days going to Phoenix, or perfect days finding some place in Denver or out on the Western Slope or something. But what does a perfect day look like, and kind of maybe spinning that with what Matt does with his spare time?
Sure. So,
And we know it's not watching TV, because you said
oh
that.
my
and
gosh,
that's
I don't
good.
even know how to work my TV.
That's pretty cool.
That is cool. Well, I'll get all philosophical first for
Okay.
the perfect day. One of the things I've talked about with a lot of folks that I really believe in is, the joy of aviation. And sometimes I talk with youngsters who, are just thinking about getting into aviation, and why would you? And, a lot of the talk is, it's beautiful, it's fun, you go fast, you can go to unique places. A different angle that I take is, I think of three aspects of a flight. There's the physical, there's the intellectual, and there's the emotional. And I'll get to the end what's a perfect day. So the physical is your hand-eye coordination. You're physically controlling the throttle, the controls, the rudder pedals. You're looking for traffic left and right, and you glance at your altimeter, and it's perfect. You've held altitude. Your hand-eye coordination is spot on. That euphoria.
That feels pretty good.
Or, looks like I'm trending to a descent. Let me make a correction, come back to it. I fixed it. Also euphoria. So the physical is very demanding, and also a sense of accomplishment. Then there's the intellectual. Right? We understand the aircraft systems. We read. We understand the regulations. You're flying along, and the radio gets crackly or gets quiet, or an indicator comes on, and you need to understand all the possibilities of the systems that may cause that. And then what are you going to do about it? And then also the urgency of that. So there's a very intellectual aspect, or ATC is giving you a unique instruction, and you need to comply with it, and it works out. Then there's the emotional. Right, we're flying along, and you tune an incorrect frequency, and nobody's picking you up on the radio. Or you're flying along, and the voltage is low, and you're 30 miles from home. So now it becomes emotional, right? Your ability to deal with a situation. That situation could be benign, it could be a crisis, it could be urgent, it could be important. And so how your body handles that level of, okay, I need to process this. I need to do something about this. I need to keep my passenger safe. I need to keep myself safe. Maybe we're flying in the snow, and the cloud got bigger than we expected. It's emotional, right? It's very taxing. Then you come in for a landing, whether the landing is good or bad. All three of these things came together at the exact same time. Mm-hmm. So it's a trifecta of, wow. Mm-hmm. And it's not I want to brag about it kind of euphoria. It's an internal, I solved this, I did this well, I fixed this didn't go well, but I'll work on it next time. I just landed, everybody is smiling, and if you do a good job, Megan claps. Good landing.
Okay, yeah.
That's the fourth.
Good, yeah.
That's the fourth.
Yeah.
So for me, a perfect day is, nothing's always perfect, but those 3 or 4 things all happened in a 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour flight. That's a perfect day.
That feels pretty good. And boy, I call it, I sort of get in the zone, what you were talking about, those 3 aspects. And sometimes I'm getting down, and I'm down, and I'm, we're taxiing before it all, oh geez, it all just, you get in this, I don't know, it really is a zone where I'm so focused that whatever else is around me, I'm not paying attention to it.
You and I flew in the mountains, and our goal was Aspen and Glenwood. We got to Leadville. We had been talking about what we're observing. We had talked about what could happen. We made the choice to change our plan.
Right.
And then we watched the weather. We watched all the forecast, or the METARs and things change. We watched the weather come in at those places we didn't get to. and we made the most decisive decision. We made a timely decision. We made the correct decision. We weren't at risk at any point, and we were right. That's a perfect day.
Yeah.
Right? We didn't make our mission, but I had a real sense of accomplishment after you and I did that, because we used all of our intellect and our tools around us. We made a decision. We got through the humility of saying, shoot, we really wanted to get right there. We got our head around it and said, these are just as good. We'll get the value. That was a perfect day.
And I remember you saying that now and afterwards is, it was that was the right decision. And that made it a good flight. It made it from we were going to have a problem flight to a wonderful flight. It looked a little different than when we started.
Yeah.
And so it still was cool. So that's that decision making, that awareness of safety, all the things you just highlight there, it really forms up in that awareness, safety, having some fun with it. And that's kind of the thing that when you and I have talked about a number of things and how you use your plane to really enjoy life. When you talk, it's big and beautiful enough, and you can get to a lot of places, but I sort of hear too that you're just as happy flying over the mountain to someplace close with the gang in the back and the dogs and the whatever, and you jump off and you go do something. And what a great kind of answering that second part of the question. It's really a part of your fabric, aviation, but it doesn't mean it's the business. It's really part of your lifestyle that keeps you enjoying it.
Yeah.
You're and I know being here so long, you probably you participated in some local kind of give back opportunities. I think you were in because I'm trying to get myself there, is the Civil Air Patrol and some other things that you participate in or have.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities to be one part of aviation that's not about commercial or career or making money. There's so many opportunities to enjoy aviation. So I was in the Civil Air Patrol for a number of years, and what a great volunteer organization to do search and rescue or photography missions, reconnaissance missions. Just a wonderful outfit. And here at Rocky Mountain Metro, the senior squadron here was great. I have to do a few shout outs, make sure I get them all. Mind if I find my shout outs?
Sure, find your shot. Because I want to make sure, like you said.
There we go. There's a few. I just don't
want
to
miss. Don't want to miss anybody,
so
because I want everybody to enjoy this.
So shout out to some of my former, when I was in Civil Air Patrol, Martin Kelly, Chase Whitney, Randy Settergren, Tom Ripp, and then I have two bodyguards from the Civil Air Patrol. Kyle Strunk, he is my partner in Miss Daisy. And then Jeff Kaplan. And the three of us do a lot of flying together. And so big shout out to all those folks at Civil Air Patrol.
And you, again, you spent a good bit of time with that. You found it, rewarding. And I think you did some, again, what your point was, and I think I'm trying to figure out how to get to a point where I can help out. But some other volunteer organizations as well, right? In the Angel Flight or something, you did some things, which was
Angel, that's so fun. I mean, what a rewarding opportunity to give back and help somebody or a family get from point A to point B who need to get there. It could be somebody for medical treatment, visiting a family with medical treatment, you name it. And so Angel Flight is a wonderful organization. Feels great to meet new people. Do your best for cockpit bedside manner, right? Most of the folks I've done with Angel Flight have never been in a small airplane before. It's not Delta Airlines. So, seeing people's faces go from anxious to, tell me more about that. Or, hey, can we go over that lake? There's nothing better. You've done a great job of helping somebody through and then all of a sudden they're at their destination and they get back to their regular life. So also giving some folks
I think that cockpit manner or the bedside manner you talked about has got to be very crucial in how you manage that, not only because of the individual's condition, but and very, very rewarding. So hats off to you. So
I've done, Kyle Strunk and I have done several Angel Flights. Jeff Kaplan and I have done several Angel Flights. And Jeff and I also have done some volunteer cargo transport, kind of the Santa shows up to a remote airport bringing toys, food, supplies, and organized.
Oh, how cool is that?
Drop off. So that's been a lot of fun.
For the kids. God, there's just so much to talk about. This is such a great conversation. Because you got to be inspiring those that weren't sure they could get in here also, because you're clearly passionate about aviation. I think you've hit a lot of the things that make me wonder, if I was to say, what keeps you passionate about aviation? Roll some of that up for me. What keeps you, just because you clearly got the bug?
Yeah, there's a lot to that, and hopefully everybody has a good answer to that question. Like that's what keeps you going.
Mm-hmm.
So there's professionally, there's personally, and then there's family. Maybe I'll put it into 3 categories. Professionally, like we've been talking about, I love helping others achieve their goals. I have a lot of former students over the last 15 years that I see at the airport, and they're now pilots for my flight. And the more people I help on their path, what a great
Right.
feeling. And there's no end to that. There's no end. And it's not I've reached the pinnacle or, okay, I've accomplished that. There is no end to that.
Every time you see it, it still probably spikes the needle a little bit.
Yep. I'll do a quick tangent. So one of my fun experiences has been, I'll give a shout out to Hannah Burns. She was one of my private pilot students long ago, and her accomplishment was she soloed on her 16th birthday.
Wow.
So,
okay.
Women in aviation, 16th birthday, and she's out there soloing. And now she flies helicopters for the Navy.
Wow.
So,
okay.
I'm going to sit here and take all the credit, of course.
Well, it's
But
good
if I
foundation.
But if I have, a little piece of that, it's amazing. And I tell that story all the time. Also part of that story, also with regard to safety, this is the tangent, is wonderful story. So her parents, Michelle Burns, John Burns, friends of mine, maybe not the smartest decision, but the most exciting was for them to stand next to me next to the runway for her first solo.
Okay.
So their 16-year-old daughter, her first solo, mom and dad, my friends, and mom says to me, Michelle says to me, if something doesn't go right, I'm going to kill you. And then that smile.
So there's some accountability.
But it's an impressionable moment, right? Safety in everything we do. Just because I do a lesson with someone and I try to impart wisdom and safety aspects, I have to get in and maybe, fly to pick something up. I need the same level of safety and awareness. I do a lot of discovery flights for friends, for their kids.
Right.
And here I have, somebody's kid.
Somebody's child.
It doesn't get more important than that.
No.
So towards my goals, one, there's no end to the amount of people to touch and help influence their career in aviation.
Mm-hmm.
Cool, go get them. Then there's personally, right? There's a lot of things I still want to do. I still want to go faster. I want to try some new airplanes. Just, we all have that dream of flying in a P-51
Right,
or,
right.
a fun flight. There's tons of new places I want to see or airports I've heard of that are challenging. And then there's family. Megan and I love to go hiking, and we love Colorado, and we have 50 other places we need to be. And then there's other states and so there's no shortage of things. Now, none of those are money building, career building.
It isn't when, again, we need money. I get all that.
Yeah.
But what you're demonstrating here is there's a lot more than just you never in one piece of that mentioned, well, I got to have this business side. These are all things that make you, enjoy your journey.
Yeah.
And the whole thing we're talking about here is your journey in aviation and how it brings you excitement and how you're, really helping others, and some words of wisdom there to think about how to, chart your course.
Yeah, there's another story that comes to mind. I'll give a shout out to my good friend Joe Morey. he said something to me once years ago about, I have a website, I create documents, I create videos, I do some on YouTube, and so I try to give and create, and it's, there's no financial compensation for that. I just, I keep trying. And he said something to me years ago that is a huge compliment, and it sticks with me. And he says, I'm one of the few people out there in the world that are producers versus consumers. We all love to consume. There's websites, resources, we all watch and view. And he's kind of talking about my website and the documentation and the things I give out to people, whether it's checklist creation, geeky habits. But I'm always trying to give to general aviation. And so it really hits home to be somebody trying to give and produce. And I'm not trying to inflate my ego.
No,
but, you're doing it right now. You have a podcast and you're out there touching people. And I do a little bit on YouTube. I don't have the skill that you do, and so I'm going to keep working at it. So as part of my goals, I'm going to keep working at it.
We're all working. It's really what you did. What a perfect segue to a thought here that you're a producer versus a consumer. And that really was a big part, and those that have been faithful and followed me on this have heard me say this many times. It's really what inspired me to get out there and hear your story. Hear other people's story that give without ever thinking that it's not about what they're going to get out of it. And there are so many people out there that have produced or giving to make our business or aviation fun. Draw people into it, show them how they can do it, and you're one of those people. And I know I'm going to say this and you're going to bite your tongue, but I remember when we started talking about having some conversation together, you said, geez, well, I'm just kind of an this and that. I said, no, Matt, see, that's where you're missing it, because I get to see it from the outside,
Did you just give me a shout out?
I did, yeah. I'm going to give Matt a shout out. Thank you. Thank you very much. I knew this would come in handy.
Thank you for the shout out.
Yeah,
that's amazing. I love it.
But it's folks like you that inspired me, because this is about figuring out how to pull those stories out. What, great background, safety, so people take some of them away from it. They said, look what Matt has done for the community, his life, his family, the whole thing, how it all comes together is really the basis for what I thought there were stories out there, and I'm finding there are. And that's what's, the friendships you rattled off 20 names of different people that have made you a big part of your success, no doubt. But I also find that my selfish, what I get out of this is friendships and all the people. So while I'm trying to bring the story, it's a blast doing it. So let's see here. Well, we talked about, your process, your journey, anything that I've missed directly that you want to get out there and talk about. You can look through there and think about it, because I do want to hit while you're multitasking. Tell me a little bit about mattbeyer.com. You mentioned that, and that's a give back point, and we're going to make sure we get that in the credits for the video so people can reach out and take a look, because it's overwhelming the amount of information you've compiled. But talk a little bit about what's in that.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. So www.mattbeyer.com. Shout out to my friend Kurt Bruns. He's put the website together years and years ago. And originally, I just wanted, a little selfish, I wanted a website where I could click and get the weather quickly. This was, I don't even know, 15 years ago.
Okay.
And it wasn't about being a resource for others. I wouldn't think people would be interested, but I wanted to be able to click on the weather quickly, or I wanted to be able to click on that link quickly. So let me make a very boring website and just put my favorite links. And this would be my access to information. And then I would come across people, hey, thanks for your website. The list of links, this was my website. The list of links is useful. And I thought, you know what, this might be a fun way to actually do a real website and make it usable and a true resource. So Kurt put together a wonderful website. It's probably been 15 years ago, and tried to organize it to provide information for pilots, either local or anywhere, about mountain flying, about Colorado airports. There's a video of every Colorado airport. Phone numbers, procedures, public service announcements, safety briefings. And it's so much fun to see people say, yeah, sounds good. I look forward to meeting you on the flight. And I found your website, great information, really valuable.
Right.
So it went from, that's a great list of links, to your website is very valuable. And, it's not about me trying to, have an ego about it, but it's awesome. I'm on the right path.
Well, what's interesting too is it's done very well. Shout out to your help there on all that. But there is a lot of information, and what I found very useful too is it goes beyond just the area. But if you want to know about flying around here and get those quick weather stations, and I love the videos that you have put out there of touching down at every airfield. If you want to know what it looks like to do it the right way, go watch the video.
Because those are things I wanted.
Right.
If I'm going to try something new, and I would think of things I needed and wanted, and I'd go make them publicly available. If nobody ever uses it, fine. But I'm my
if you
best.
help one or two people, and that's the spirit of what I hear you doing. It's not about winning every battle or winning everyone over. It's winning a few over, and it's folks like you that are doing that and putting that extra content, because I know there is just so much you and people like you that are putting the content for people to learn about aviation and to stay safe and have that resource. And I hope everyone gets out to Rocky Mountain Metro here and calls Matt up for some of that training. And by the way, we got to figure out how to do some spin training.
Yeah.
That's on my list too.
So on the website, one thing I'll mention is, I've been spending time over the last couple of years with safety briefings. And some of them are local, as we've changed the procedures. You read one recently.
Right.
And some of those are general aviation. And I'm always looking for ideas that are pertinent and valuable. Mm-hmm. So on my website, the first page, there's a web form to contact me. For anyone with an interest in, this would be a good safety topic for the world to know about. I'd love to go do some research, put something together, and get it out there for everyone.
Right, and I see those, and I mean, they're not only, again, I'm not sure where you get your time, but you
There's no need to sleep.
I was going to say, because some of the content there alone takes time, and I know that I have a greater appreciation for that effort in this journey of mine, as well as the time it takes. So if you get into doing some of this, you have true appreciation for folks like you that are really putting it out forward, and so that's wonderful. I'm trying to think of anything else. I do want to, while we're thinking about that for a second, just a quick reminder, by the time you get a chance to see this, Matt and I are going to get some flying time in, and we're going to get that posted up in here. So we're going to get that in Miss Daisy here, and I might be up a little some other sneak tidbits that we sneak into this conversation before it's all said and done, and it gets posted out there on YouTube. But
I can't wait to see.
Oh, it's going to be great. I've had so much fun. I just want to say that. And we'll hopefully we've caught most everything, or the good, there's just so much to talk about. We could probably talk for hours, but I just want to thank you, Matt, for your time and setting, being patient with me and getting out here and kind of coordinate the East Coast and the Central West here.
Yep.
and making this happen, because it's been a total blast. We talked about your website. We talked about a couple other things that you've been involved with. We're going to get those posted up and highlighted, so people will, hopefully take a chance to see the real contribution you've made.
I'll do a quick another website. We'll give a shout out to Rocky Mountain Flight School. Has
absolutely
been a great opportunity for me to one, be part of, teach and instruct, kind of grow flight instructors into some into themselves. So shout out to Greg Boom for Rocky Mountain Flight School.
Excellent. And you got a fleet of planes out there. I'm still fascinated. I walk out and you have so many planes and all the cars and the instructors. So if you want to get it done, you want to get it done right, Rocky Mountain Flight School, get out here and see Matt and his team. As always, I just want to thank you for watching. can always use your help in subscribing to the channel. Give us that thumbs up. Make sure that we know that you like what we're doing, and we're going to keep doing it and running into people like Matt and sharing their story and talking about their passion in aviation and how it relates to everyone's life in some way. Maybe even if you're not into aviation, there's a lot to be learned as we in talking with Matt. And as always, as we say here in the network, avoid that turbulence or those updrafts and downdrafts if we're in mountain flying, and look for those blue skies when you're out there. And as always, we look forward to meeting up with you again on the next Old Fly Guy conversation.